Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Multifamily Legacy Podcast. I'm your host Corey Peterson. The show today is filled with we got a baller, and I want to call it almost like I want to say like an MF baller. I won't say the word, but his name is Michael Becker. He runs a firm called SPI Advisory. He has over 8,000 units that he's done. I think he currently owns like maybe 6,000 or something like that. You said. But he did it in a fairly relative short period of time, like a span of 6 years. That's a big feat. And we're going to talk today about how he's done it through what I think is the most important thing in the world, relationships. And so, Michael, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, Corey, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So, unpack. You got to give me the short little version of how you blew up. But let's get into, and then we'll kind of get into the minutia of what I think is the most important part of what we've talked about before we got on the show, which is the relationship building that you've done, because that's really is amazing.
Yeah, well, Michael Becker, based in Dallas, Texas, got into the business because I was a banker, so I was loaning money to other people on apartment complexes, and kind of realized that process was on the wrong side of all those deals. It's kind of better to be the borrower than the lender. And kind of, looking at a bunch of guys like you making loans to and thinking like, man, if this guy can do it, I can do it. So went out, started in 2011, started buying some smaller stuff like single family, stuff like that, kind of rent houses, my own money. And kind of through that process, realized it wasn't very scalable. So I transitioned in 2013. And as we talk right now, in July, we closed on our 38th deal. Right at about 8,000 units, and we've gone full cycle on 17 of them. So I've refinanced 4 that we still own today, and then we've sold 13 for some pretty substantial profit. So as we talk about 5,800 units, majority of that stuff's up in Dallas-Fort Worth where I'm at, and then my business partner's based in Austin. So those are kind of the 2 markets. So kind of buying our own backyard, and have as you kind of alluded to, it's
that's like a hell yeah, brother, dude. That's what I want to give you is a hell yeah, brother, right? That's Dude, that's cool as hell. So, from a banker looking at other people's balance sheets and seeing like, gosh dang, they're making some money, I might need to figure this out, right?
That's right.
And how did you kind of walk into like? So I see you on the other side of that, but that transition to go from that spot to like I'm gonna get my own deal, was that scary as hell, or did it just seem like it's transitioned well?
What it was I was sitting there at work, and I was really motivated, right? I really want to get at it. I really want to get going. One of the things that really happened to me was I'm 41 now. I just turned 41, and so back in 2010, so in my early 30s, my mom passed away. So she passed away when she was 57 years old, and her and my dad kind of saved their entire life for the kind of live for retirement in the future, and then I kind of got taken away right before she was able to go enjoy it. So that was kind of like a moment in my life that really kind of said, hey, shit, it's not going to be me, right? I don't know how much time I have in this life. So you got to kind of balance, being a steward of money, living below your means, accumulate some capital, go out and invest. That's kind of what I was doing at that point in my life. But at some point I want to go out and be able to experience life and live a little bit while I'm young enough to go out and do it. So that, as soon as kind of got
in other words, not be all work, have some playtime.
That's right. Or just be independent enough that I can work from wherever I want to work. I worked from 2 weeks in Kauai, your favorite place on earth. I worked from 2 weeks this summer in Kauai, just hanging out in Hawaii. And I got as much done in Hawaii as I would back in Dallas.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
Don't make me get pigeon, bro. That's the kind. The kind, bro.
that was a moment, really Corey, where I was like, I just got to get out and do something. I couldn't do that if I was going to be a banker, chained to my desk and all that stuff. So, started with coming out of the recession, I started doing small stuff with my own money. And, it's kind of really just building up confidence. I didn't really need to do it, but it was like, if I put 10,000 or 20,000 in this house, I lose it. I'm not going to be on the street corner begging for money. I had enough money where I could afford to do that. And it was a great time. I did really well. I was able to turn a little bit of money into, pretty good little nest egg. Yep. And then just realized that doing these little houses, it just wasn't scalable, and I'm just reflecting back to what I do all day, every day, which was loan money to other people. So what I had, I had a little bit of money because I was a good boy and saved my money. I was able to grow that by doing the houses and kind of, form a somewhat decent nest egg. And then I had a lot of relationships. I had a lot of experience. I just wasn't using to the best of the capability because I'm a pretty prominent banker in Dallas-Fort Worth. I made a lot of loans on these distressed deals kind of coming out of the recession. So all the brokers knew who I were. I knew a lot of the management companies, all the contractors, all that stuff. I just really needed to get everyone in the marketplace to kind of take the perception of me from being a banker into a principal. And if you do a deal or two, that changes pretty quick. That's what I found out.
Almost instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, instantly, right? So now I love it because so I'm going to unpack this just a little bit. So basically what you said is I saw the deal. I saw what probably more Nirvana, but you didn't say jump right into it. You're like, oh, I'm going to go do the single families. And then you get like most people that do single families that are listening to this podcast, you eventually realize that it sucks. Okay?
Yeah.
Because it'll suck everything from you. But you can still make a little bit of money there. And really, rightfully so, that's what you did, is you're able to make some money. But then you really kind of opened up your eyes to the big picture and you said, hey, listen, what do I actually have? Because I actually probably have more relationships than I know that really want to help me. If I put myself in the right position, which you said principal is the word you said, and that is the key word that we talk about. When you're a principal, that means you're the guy signing it, right? Or a part of that group that's going to do the signing. And that is instrumental in the growth. And then it's not, so relationships. Let's talk about how you leveraged that. And,
a couple key relationships, right? So when I'm looking at this, when you're doing the deals, as a sponsor or a principal or whatever you want to call it, I call a sponsor, principal, or lead. They're kind of all interchangeable. Yep. But to be a sponsor of a deal, you need to be able to have access to deals and access to money. Right, those are two things that you need. So, but whether it's debt or equity, you need both, and then access to deals. So, fortunately, in 2013, when I started transitioning over to being a principal and buying, the deals were plentiful and they're a lot easier to get. The money was a lot harder back then, and now it's kind of reversed. Right, people are just throwing money at us, and it's harder to try to find the deals. So it's never a perfect equilibrium. And if I would have started in 2011, both would have been harder to do, would have been really hard to get debt back in 2011. But by 2013, the market had kind of loosened up quite a bit.
Yep.
Fannie and Freddie were back in pretty much full force, and, people were kind of ready to take risk again with their equity. So it was actually a pretty darn good time to start this. So one of the key things I met really was I was at the bank making a loan. I made a lot of loans, made hundreds of loans over a 4 or 5 year period. All this distress stuff coming out of 2008 through when I left in 2013. But I met my now business partner. My now business partner was working for a broker out of Beverly Hills. They would help high net worth people from LA and Orange County buy properties in Texas. So I made a loan to one of their clients, and I flew out to meet their client. I met my now business partner. And so he had a bunch of really, really rich guys that needed people in the market to kind of put a little bit of money in the deal and kind of serve the asset management, kind of the boots on the ground.
Yep. Let me run the project, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we met through just me being a banker, kind of, I kind of just talking with these guys. We did a couple deals. I realized that they had a need, and I was like, well, I can put a little bit of money in these deals, and I can run them. So we kind of leveraged my relationships in the marketplace, leverage his capital. We had a bank to give us some money, and that was kind of how we put the first handful of deals together. And we've now
assembled the team. You assembled the team, right? Because most of the times it's never. I very rarely do a deal solo. I've always assembled the team, and then you put your team, and your team goes to work, and everybody has a little different piece that they bring to the equation, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then now we've kind of evolved where we do like larger scale syndications. Like last year and this year, raised $25 and $27 million respectively. 100,000 at a time, right?
That's it, man. That's the way it's done, brother.
That's it. But when you start out, you don't start there. You kind of grow into that. But we were fortunate to have a couple of rich guys that were crazy enough to give us $1 million checks each, and we were able to get off and going. And we've absolutely crushed it on all these deals.
I want to back up just for a minute because I just thought of something. Being a banker probably taught you a lot. I mean, I'm just thinking about I look back. I used to be a financial advisor, and I learned a lot about money by working with Edward Jones. But one of the words that I know that my banker uses a lot, and they call it, "Hey, let's establish a relation." It's all about the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they say that a lot, and because it's really about getting to know somebody. And for the bank to know you know the bank. And really, it doesn't matter if it's a bank or not. It's really anybody that you would come in contact with. So, how do you source deals? You got to have a what? A relationship.
Relationship with the broker,
yeah. How do you build those?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I started out because I was a lender, so everyone kind of knew who I was. I just had to transition my kind of my slotting in the marketplace from lender to principal, and so we started there. And but kind of the easiest way is if you're starting out and you don't have what I have, the background I have, you're just a sales guy or engineer or whatever your professional background is not in real estate. Really the easiest way is you just gotta first get educated, right? So listening to a podcast like this, going to maybe like one of Corey's boot camps, trainings. Those are good ways to get a base foundation of education and apartments, and you gotta be able to speak the lingo, right? So if you come out of the
It's
gate
the
and you don't
language.
understand
Yep.
the basics of it, you're going to be smelled out as a fraud like day one, and you're going to be counterproductive to try to build these relationships because they're going to think of you as someone that's unqualified, and you might not get a second shot at it. So first and foremost, you got to start with where you're at, humble yourself, get educated, get the lingo, get the base, and then start trying to establish relationships. So if you don't have that education, it's too early, right? For
Touche,
sure.
bro. That's words of wisdom. And
Then
but those relationships will come, right? Because I mean,
that's right.
uh, didn't you?
The
What did
next
you
thing
get?
I would really say would just be, like these brokers, they're hired by the sellers, and you want to get on everyone's list, right? So you're going to want to be in, whatever marketplaces you want to be in. I would encourage you to pick, one, two, maybe three kind of marketplaces, and try to get in those marketplaces and start getting on the radar screen. Sign up for all their lists for the brokers, get on their email list, and start downloading the packages, start underwriting these deals, start setting up tours with the broker, make sure that that's how you start building these relationships, tour by tour, deal by deal. So, set it
They
up,
let them know that
underwrite
you're
it.
you're, you're doing the work, right? Hey, I'm
That's
looking
right.
at your deals. I'm seeing their deals. Not all of the deals are going to work, but they just like to see that you're doing the work, right?
And giving them feedback, right? So they take the time in Texas in July to tour you at 3 o'clock when it's 100 degrees outside, or in Phoenix when it's 120 degrees outside in the
Yeah,
summer. Like make sure you give them feedback because it's they're human and they just want to make sure that they're not just touring to tour and wasting their time. So
right.
that feedback loop is how you start building relationships a little bit at a time. And then if you get the opportunity, like tonight's a good example. I'm going to one of the big IPA, which is the institutional part of Marcus and Millichap in Dallas, has an event with the head of IPA and then Greg Willett from RealPage. Are going to have like a little event at a steakhouse, and I get to go to these things, and there'll be a bunch of other apartment owners and all the brokers, and I'm going to be there tonight. And then we were just talking before, but last week I was in Munich, Germany, and three of the top apartment brokers from Dallas Fort Worth were there, and one of the banks we borrowed money from sponsored it. So I get to spend a week in Germany going to Oktoberfest and Lederhosen with some of the most powerful apartment brokers in Dallas Fort Worth. And if there's ever an opportunity where Corey's going against Michael Becker to buy a deal in Dallas Fort Worth, and that broker's involved, who's got the edge, right? I mean, I've spent a week
It's
with
going
this
to be
guy.
Michael Becker, right? Right? Like, and
That's right.
that's the okay. You know, I'm just glad you just told the Munich story. How was Munich, by the way?
It was
That was
awesome. You should definitely
Oktoberfest,
go
right?
do it. If you ever get the opportunity to go to Munich, it was absolutely wonderful. Like we're in Texas, so they have the great state fair of Texas all going on right now. So it was like a giant state fair of Texas, but take out the livestock and put in beer tents, and it's pretty much the same thing. So it's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. And
Yeah.
they pay. They wine to dine you. Why? Because you took the
And,
time to build relationships. But now relationship, you got to still transact, and that's the part of this
yep.
business that when they know that you transact on business and you do what you say you're going to do, and you did all the footwork, you soldiered up, um, doing the underwriting, ask for feedback, finding relationships. I'm sure when you're at home and something, there's just like the thing you're going tonight. There's always local events. Hey, let's go have lunch. Let's take a broker to lunch.
Yep.
Everybody's got to eat. So if you're in
Yep.
town, take them to lunch. Get to know them. Shake their
Yep.
hands. They'll work harder for you, won't they?
Yep. In a lot of these big cities, like Marcus and Millichap, for example, they put like on an annual event where all the apartment brokers, like a multifamily event in Dallas, and they'll do it in LA. I'm sure they do it in Phoenix as well. And they have like, they have speakers come in, panels, stuff like that. And who's going to be there is every broker that works for Marcus and Millichap that sells apartments in that city. So take the time, spend $300, buy the ticket, go in town, and you get to meet these people. They're going to be there, and then you have that interaction. Like, hey, we emailed about this deal 2 months ago, and we talked on the phone, and want to put a face with a name. And it's really simple. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So kind of the rule, one of the best rules you should live by is just don't be a jerk, right? Just be nice to these people. follow through, give feedback, make sure that you have your ducks in a row, so getting those relationships is one thing, but, they're going to want to know where's your debt, where's your equity, who's going to manage it, what have you done? If you haven't done it, how are you going to get it done? Who's your partner? How,
who's your team,
put a
right?
deal together. It's like a puzzle, right? You just got to put all the pieces together and the picture becomes clear. And that's kind of what you need to lay out. That's how you do a transaction. That's what you need to convey with confidence to the broker, that you have all the pieces of the puzzle that you need and you can put them all together and close the deal.
It's funny because people say, well, gosh, you're going to let them know that you don't have all the money, because I'm a syndicator, right? But when we sell our deals, then we put most of our money in our next deal. But in this business, you'll run out of money, your own money, real quick. So and then you just, when your deals sell and you have your money, I do it like anything else. I put it back to work. Like I don't want my money. I want it out working. But brokers, they understand this language. They don't. But you just got to lay out like you just said, lay out the game plan, guys. That's sage advice. Because that's what brokers don't like, surprises, do they?
No, not at all, right? And if you do have problems, try to make sure that these are your problems, not their problems, and you have a plan to go solve these problems, right?
Yeah, it really is. And really, go back to the team aspect of that whole process, which you just explained, is that you just have to convey to the broker that you really are, I'm just reinstating what you said, that you do have the people in place to transact in the deal. But the other part is confidence. And if you're new, you're not going to have as much confidence starting out, and that's okay. You can even say you're kind of new, right? But you don't want to you don't want to look new. You don't want to look green. You want to look like, but you've built your team. In other words, if you are really new, the best way to start a deal is what? What did you say the best way to get in a deal?
A lot of people
opinion.
start.
I'll let you have first say.
If you're new, a lot of people start by being a passive in someone else's deal. So if you have a little bit of money, that's a good way to kind of get a little bit of a track record. But you learn a lot kind of going through and being a passive and kind of observing what assuming they're a competent person that you invest with, but kind of observing a confident, experienced sponsor, you learn a lot along the way just kind of by observing, and you get a lot of lingo. The other way really is, that's one way, and or like I said, you just join a reputable mentoring club and have someone that actually has been there and done that kind of maybe hold your hand, teach you how to do this business. I've seen a lot of people be very successful kind of starting out that way. Because, not everyone has the ability to be a banker and look at hundreds and thousands of deals and learn how to underwrite that way. I have I think a relatively unique background from a principal standpoint. So you can shortcut it by just having someone and teach you how to do all this.
Have someone that has, and it's already been there, and just add value, right? So I think one of the easiest ways to get in a deal is to provide value for someone that has experience, right? And a lot of times you can tap into somebody's experience and where they have but you got a lot of the hustle, you got a lot of the grit, and you don't mind going out there and telling the story. I don't want to sit there and go call and do all the underwriting anymore. I hate that stuff, but I love it when people do it for me, right? I'm like, listen, I'll partner on all your deals. You bring qualified deals to me, I'll help do them, and we'll get a piece that makes sense, and then we'll everybody wins.
Yeah.
And so because that's just in my business model. It's like my big picture says, I like sunsets and palm trees. I want to be on Kauai a lot.
Yeah.
Right. But it really is about assembling the team. Where do you see yourself? So people that are listening to this, oh gosh, he's super successful, yada, yada, yada. Or maybe, what does the future look like? Where do you go? You've done a pretty good success in a short period of time, but really, what does that lead into?
So we've been on a steady march. We're doing a couple of things, right? So when we started out, we bought a lot of real true workforce housing, right? So a lot of stuff in Texas, kind of think like 1960s, 1970s kind of vintage. That's the first couple of years of our career. Then, about 4 or 5 years ago, we transitioned to a lot of B class. So I think kind of Texas, like 1980s. And then for the last 3 years, we've been doing kind of anywhere from B to A. But my most favorite part of the market is kind of that B plus, A minus. So in Texas, and kind of like mid 90s to all the way to about 2008. So in my opinion, that's the best part of the marketplace right now. We'll buy a little newer, we'll buy a little bit older, but that's kind of my most favorite part of the marketplace.
Do you feel like you could hold those assets longer, or do you still have, what's your usually time horizons?
We sold all our workforce. We have one workforce deal left. It's just a great location, so we're just going to own it. then we are C stuff, and then we have a few B deals. We're in the process of trying to like sell those out and trade them into better quality stuff, because that exact reason that we were fortunate enough that we bought these deals. They were underperforming at the time. We had a capital plan. We forced value, but the entire time I've been owning, cap rates compressed 200, 300 basis points, and then rents grew at 7-8% for the first several years, on top of the value we created by doing the upgrade.
So that's like the perfect storm you've created.
Right. So I go from looking, like something, thinking we could double our money in 5 years, to tripling it in 2, and I look like a freaking genius. And, some of that was me, and then some of that was the market, right? So
right.
some combination of that. I'm smart enough to realize.
You put yourself in play. I get it, right? Like sometimes good things happen
to win, and we did, right? But if I had to own that 1960s vintage deal that has cast iron sewers and aluminum wiring and a boiler and a flat roof, there's going to be all these what I like to call non-recurring expenses that recur all the time on these old deals. So they don't actually impact your NOI, because the capital items are below the NOI line.
Right.
But your plumber wants to get paid cash if he's got to dig up 10 feet underneath your property to replace the sewer line. So he's going to want to get that $10,000 check. So it actually hurts your actual operational cash flow that you could pay out to your investors. So I think a lot of these people are doing deals here recently that don't have a proper reserve set aside or cash up front. If they want get in and out of this deal in 2-3 years, they're going to be fine. But they own that deal for 7 or 8 years, I think they're going to have a rude awakening coming their way when they own these deals.
That's a big statement. So biggest risk for most new operators out there is being undercapitalized for longer term holds. I would absolutely agree to that, because craps happen about once every month or every other month. It seems like like, oh crap, we didn't know that, and it'll affect cash flow. It'll affect your whole business plan, and so when you hold those older properties, they do tend to break more often than not.
Yeah.
But it's a good place to start. To get broke in, but. Just like I think this is what I want people to see, is that as you start maturing in the space, you start to trade up in to the nicer properties, right?
One of the things I heard early on in this business, someone told me this, and that the older the property is, the more true the statement is. That you own apartments in dog years, right? Every year feels like 7 in reality, right? So after a few years of owning this deal, it feels like you've owned it for 20 and you're ready to like sell it and move on to something else. So the older and the smaller the deal is, the more true that statement is. If you own a 300 unit deal that's 5 or 10 years old, it's not as big of a pain in the ass to own that thing as it is something that's 50 years old.
And right, and 50, it's 50 units or something, right?
Yeah. So that's just something that, when people are starting out in this business, kind of think through that, because usually 1 or 2 things happen when you get in the business. You buy a deal, you buy what you can afford, so you tend to buy a little bit older, a little bit smaller when you're starting out. You get in the deal, 1 or 2 things are going to happen. You're going to get in and you're like, man, this fucking sucks. I want to sell this deal and get out of it. So you can't wait to sell it. Or you get in it, man, like, this is great. I can't wait to sell this thing and buy something bigger. But these deals, on the first couple of deals you do, you're most likely want to be in and out of these things a little bit quicker. So when you're putting the debt on it, when you're putting your structure together, kind of keep that in mind, that you might think, hey, I'm going from a single family house to a 50 unit deal, and why would I ever sell this deal? But one of those 2 things is probably going to happen.
It really makes sense. And because let's talk about this too, and this well, because when you do sell, let's say you keep something for 3 years, 4 years, that's probably, at that point you're like, man, I can probably get out of debt, my financing, my debt, without a whole expensive fees to get out of it. And if you can sell it and make a pretty good profit, it's in that sell price that I think you can really, that's when you get to turn it around, because now you just made a truckload of money, and you can take that plus your other investors' money into the next deal. You can get a bigger deal, you can get a more newer deal, and it is trading up, and you'll start making more cash flow too.
And the other thing too is, if you're a syndicator and you're starting out and you're young, you need to go full cycle on these deals. You need to establish that track record, because you're not going to be able to grow as quickly without there's a lot of ways.
One from in to out, right?
There's a lot of ways. One of the things,
a
lot of analogies. There's a lot of ways to communicate with your investors. The best way to communicate with the investors is with a check, and everything else is secondary, right? So if you give them a little bit along the way, that's great. If you give them a big pop at the end, that's even better, and then they, because everything else is just you talking until you deliver them that check. And as soon as you do it, they're going to give it back to you. Plus, you're going to tell all their friends, and that's kind of how you really grow your business.
Gosh damn, that's golden, dude. That's a golden quote. right?
Yeah.
I mean call that like
Steal that one.
the title of this segment, man.
Yeah.
Because they don't care until you give them a check, man.
That's right. Everything else is just you talking, right? That's the best way to communicate with people is just giving them money back.
Isn't that the truth? Just doing what you said you're going to do and delivering them real money. Because in
Yeah.
this business, you know it, Michael. I mean, a lot of people don't. There's a lot of shoddy operators out there, and it doesn't take a whole lot of work to be great. It's just by doing what you said you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
How often do you pay your investors in your system?
We do. So we started this out, and I wish I would have done it differently, but we started this way, so we still do it. We pay monthly distributions. So when you invest with me, when you sign up, you got to give me a routing and an account number because we don't do check. We don't literally give you a check. We'll send you an ACH. But you know, so we do monthly on the 15th of the month. We'll send out a monthly distribution, and at the end of the month, we send a monthly management report out for the prior month. So we communicate once a month, once with an ACH, once with an actual email with a report and a narrative. So it's a pretty laborious process. And it wasn't that big a deal when we had a handful of deals, but now I got to do 25 of these a month. It starts becoming a little bit more of a chore.
Feels like work, right?
That's right. So maybe
we do it once. We pay quarterly. We do.
That's what I would
monthly.
Recommend other people to do. Yes, that's.
But we do the ACH. Now, why is the ACH important?
People lose checks and they don't lose ACHs.
Dude, I just had it today. I had an investor that she's she's a snowbird, and she went to New York. She's lives usually in Arizona, but she was in New York. And Corey, I didn't get. Now we have one property that we have to do checks, and we don't do them anymore. But for a while we had to do checks, and gosh dang it, man! So we sent it, and I didn't get my money, Corey. I'm like, Levon, we sent it. I have it right here. She sees it. And so she gets home just like last week, Corey, because she told me they forward her mail. Oh, Corey, they forward my mail. I don't have the money. What's going on? And we just couldn't figure it out. I was like, gosh, I'm just going to wire you money. I don't care. She gets home, and guess what? Guess what's in her mailbox?
Yeah.
Those checks. And so don't do checks. Do ACHs, okay? Yeah. It's way better. It's way cleaner. And there's none of that. There's checks in the mail stuff because your investors hate it. And I hate it too. So good stuff. When you talk about at the end of the day, what has this business given you? Like, let's talk about lifestyle for just a minute. Where you at now? What's the difference in your lifestyle?
It's been about 6 years, and sometimes it feels like it's been my entire life, and sometimes it feels like I was a banker 10 minutes ago. Kind of depending on what it is, but we've certainly grown a lot. So one of the things I've been finding the most interesting and the most challenging, I was always a guy that could do deals, right? We just did a lot of deals as a banker, and now I just do them as a principal. So I was always a deal junkie doing deals. But how do you manage? I'm at 1,200 K1s this year. I have 700 some odd unique investors, and so how do you manage all that? And all the stuff, and having 25 assets, almost 6,000 units in the portfolio today, and it's a problem business, man. There's always a problem either on the property or there's a problem with your investor pool. There's always a problem, right? Some are big, some are small, but, constantly. And how do you do that and still have, a wife and kids and travel and all that stuff? So really it was about building up the infrastructure and the team. We just kind of went from guys doing deals, hired one of our first key employees who really helped us kind of take and build out a process and procedures for everything we do and standardize it.
Yes, process and procedures, people.
Yeah, and then we got, as simple as from having like group emails. When you email this property, I can have a group email that everyone's in there versus having to remember everyone's email addresses, and then like doing the ACHs.
Well, what happens when someone dies? What happens when someone needs to get out of a deal for whatever reason? Or there's a divorce? Like
getting investor database, storing and tracking all the distribution amounts. Make sure you have that ready for the K1s. Making sure you're doing your fair market value forms for all the IRAs. It's just like any one thing's not a big deal, but it's like 10 minutes here and 20 minutes there, and just like adds up. And so you got to scale your system out, get the people, and if you do that right, then you can go to Hawaii for 2 weeks, and the place runs just as well if I'm here or there, because I'm not like working, the cliche of working on your business, not in your business. I've gotten myself to that point. I'm very critical to the key cog of either raising money or finding deals. Those are the two highest and best uses of my time. So find money,
finding deals and finding money.
everything else is noise, right? It's important. You got to manage it right. You got to communicate. You got to operate. You got to do all that stuff. But the way you make money is you go find deals and find money. So that's what I need to focus my time on is investor relations and broker relationships. And those are really where and those are the two things I like, right?
Man, isn't that nice to be that crystal clear on what I mean? You're one of the ones that articulated probably the best I've had on my show of being very crystal clear on what your role is.
Yeah.
Right. And when you know that, like everything else, just like you said, I like use your word, noise. It's just noise, and you just put people in places to handle the noise that's got to get done. But that allows you to focus on what probably Michael does best. And I know this about you, which is the brokers and the money.
Yeah.
Like that's what you should be doing.
That's right. That's where you need to get to. But when you start out, you do everything. You do the $10 hour task and you do the $1,000 hour task. And as you start going, you get asset management fees, you maybe get acquisition fee, you get some capital, you build your infrastructure out. Every time we get an asset management fee, we're constantly have more overhead than we do asset management fees. And we're just kind of investing in the infrastructure. And one day, hopefully soon, that'll flip where we're, completely self-sustaining from just asset management fees on the ongoing revenue.
Do you guys self-manage?
No, we use a third-party management company. So we have one that manages our portfolio. We kind of grown with them. There's no right or wrong to that, but I'm a banker and I don't want to deal with that kind of crap. So I just have a good professional third-party management company. I think all things being equal, no one cares about your money more than you do. So I think being vertically integrated is better. But for 3%, you get pretty damn close paying it out. And
just stick close to them, right? Be real close to that process, right? So
so we have a professional asset manager. So this guy has 15 years of professional experience before I hired him. So he's a really high level guy that hell he does this better than I do it, right? Because he's in all the minutia. I mean, I know enough about operations, obviously, to be dangerous, right? And
but you're not an operating guy. You're the big picture guy. Yeah, you're
a banker. I do the capital stack, and that's what I excel at. I don't excel at all the minutia and the revenue management software, which but fortunately you can pay someone else that's an expert, and they can do it for you.
Right, and I know we're talking higher level stuff here, but guys, realize that that's not where we started, right? I mean, he started when the beginning of the show. I was doing single families. He just learned this is how this business works. As you start to grow, you start to bolt on and add the little pieces. It's not just oh God, we got to have all this before we start. You just get into motion, get some deals going, and then you start learning to now we're starting to get busy. I got to free up my time so I can hunt and gather money and deals. So I got to so let's take a little piece of this profit and let's put it over here. We'll call it and charge those asset management fees, right?
Yeah.
Because you should. Like I'm a firm believer you should be charging some money to manage these deals because internally it takes team and process to handle your investors and everything that has to do with the deal. Would you agree?
Yeah. No, it's irresponsible not to be honest with you, because if you get hit by a bus, someone's got to come behind you and do it. So you're gonna have to pay someone else to do it. So the deal can't support reasonable and market kind of compensation for the sponsor. Then you shouldn't be doing it.
Because the sooner you can get to not being a one-man band, the actually safer it is for everybody.
That's right.
That's in your deal. Because
that's one of the things that we've kind of learned as we got into this business. When we started out, we had a two-man law firm and a sole practitioner CPA, and then one day he's fine, but one day 4 or 5 years ago, my CPA, pretty young guy, had a little mild stroke, and I was thinking like, oh no, he's fine, but it was like, oh crap, like if this guy goes down, I got a big problem. So, we started looking at all our service providers, like, we got to get bigger, and we need to, the bigger we get, the less it's about Michael Becker, the more it's about our SPI and our system.
It's your company. You have a company
culture, right?
Yes.
We need to have redundancy within our CPAs and with our lawyer. My lawyer, had a baby. So then I can't not do my deal because he's out, with his wife. The world keeps going. So
you have a CPA or a PPM lawyer, another PPM lawyer. A couple backups.
That's right.
You just got to make friends with everybody because that's another good nugget. Is funny how that works. Is as you grow, your business is growing. You realize that I need bigger firms to support me because we can't have downtimes, especially because when you start having the amount of money that you have, for me, I don't know what I have, but I don't have nearly what you have. But
Yeah.
that's a lot of that's money. That's people's money that you're responsible for. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, people trust you and your company, and for you making good decisions. So you owe it to your capital to think big. Wouldn't you agree? And to try to work towards that goal.
That 100%. Definitely one of the things you just got to maybe think of is, we've raised about $180 million in my career, right? So, so a lot of money, right?
Yeah, it is.
And one thing I've learned through this process was, like I said, over 700 unique investors, I mean, 1,200 K1s. When someone invests with me, they give me $100,000, I have their money. And if I don't communicate with them, they think you stole their money, right? So you need to make sure that on a regular scheduled interval that you're communicating with them. Like I said, the best way to communicate is to check, and then the second best is with a report, the email, and whatever. You need to be responsible.
And that's all it really does take, though. Truly, right? I mean, I've got my investors, and they don't really give too much problem. You send the report. Here's what's going on in the deal. Here's complete financials, and then when it's time to get their checks, they get their checks. If you'll do those two things, most people are pretty quiet.
The other thing I've noticed too through this process is, like, what do you right now, if I get a bad feeling about you on the front end, I'm not going to take your money, right? If I feel like you're super needy or there's just some sort of personality conflict, I'm going to take your money. And that's easy for me to say today, right? When you're starting out, you need that $50,000 check or that $100,000 check. Sometimes you compromise on that. And what I found in my career is every time I had a bad feeling about someone and I took their money anyways, they've always come back and been a pain in my side, right? So
hold on, time out. Put that exclamation point on this. Listen, everybody just hear what he just said, okay? If you have a feeling that someone's not right, even though you really think you need the money, you don't need the money, because it will be a bigger pain in the butt. I have this experience, I know it, and I know you know it.
Yeah.
Just walk away and say no. It'll be the most liberating thing you'll ever say.
Yeah. So when you don't take this advice, you take that money, you'll know what we're saying. But
and then you'll have experience like us.
it is easy from this position today, but 6 years ago, when it's between you doing this deal or not doing the deal, sometimes you
and the truth is, I've taken the money, just like you have taken the money, right? I'm like, gosh, damn it, I'm taking the money. I wish I wouldn't have. But at the end,
stuff like that.
But I had to do it, right?
I do is I'm very crystal clear. Like, this is the level of communication you can get from me. This is when I'd be integral. If you have a question here or there, that's fine. I'm here to, I have your money. I'm here to take care of it. So I'm okay answering questions. But I'm not here to have an hour-long call with you every single month because you give me
about why this thing, you spent this money for this one thing. Because you're like, dude, I don't even know, man. Like, listen, the numbers are on track for the whole big picture. So I don't know what this one little thing is, and it's not my job to know, because we have other people to do lots of. Now we can go find out, but if we got to keep finding out every month, you're probably going to never be invited to one of our deals ever again.
That's right. Yeah. So we have a blackball list, and it gets getting longer and longer and longer, right? So 99% of the people are great. It's just the very small percentage sometimes that come wear you out. But
yeah,
that is
that's a good point, though. Just to really realize. And that comes, guys, that'll come with maturity, don't you think? I mean, as you get more mature in the business, and you get more confident in your money raising ability and what you're doing, you'll learn. And honestly, saying no is one of the hardest words ever, is it not?
Yep.
2 letters, 1 word, no. But it's sometimes hard. But once you get better at saying it, and for the right reasons, because you know that you don't want to accept that pain that comes with it, saying no is probably the hardest thing to do, but it's probably one of the most beneficial you'll ever do too.
One of the other things I wish I would have done with the benefit of hindsight is when we started out, I had no idea we're going to get as big as we got, but like I would put like my email out there, my cell phone number out there, and then all of a sudden now all these people want a piece of me, and so I get all these random calls and stuff. So now you go to my website, you can't find my email or my phone number anywhere. You call the main number, and then I have a gatekeeper that kind of gets you between you and me. Because I just don't want that out there. But I still get these phone calls and this and that. And so if you think, it doesn't take that much to set up an office phone number on Ring or Ring Central, or, get a Gmail will host your email for you for like $10 a month, and get a company website. And these are all things that maybe you should do kind of early on, and then don't get your cell phone number out there. Because if you do grow and get big, at some point you don't want these things coming directly at
you.
They'll
come back to you
at the start, but then at some point, it's easy to flip that to a gatekeeper to kind of be between you.
It's when you hand your phone to your admin and say, just so it's yours now, I'm going to go get a new one.
That's right. Thought about that.
Yeah. Listen, brother, dude, what a great show, man. Final thoughts for anybody that's out there new, to inspire them
Yeah.
to stay in the business
You
and
know, I
keep
mean,
charging.
I think it's really as simple as it's it's a completely unfair business, right? So it's a tough world. It's completely unfair. As much as a lot of the politicians now want to make everything results even, it's a complete meritocracy, right? Either you can do the deal or you can't. You can get it done or you can't. And nothing's more true in this business right here, right? And a lot of it's who you know, what chips you can trade. Me having a lot of experience versus you that has none. The world doesn't care. I'm going to win that deal almost every single time, right? So that's the way it is. So you've got to get yourself, get real about where you are, where you start, what you have. If you have more money, you have an advantage over someone that's broke, right? So then if you're broke, you got to figure out how do I accumulate some capital? Do I go flip some houses? Do I get a better paying job? Do I live below my means and accumulate some money? Whatever you got to do to get to that point. So that certainly is. Everyone starts with what they have and where they are. So you just got to be really real about that, and then start working your way into getting these relationships a little bit at a time after you get educated, so you don't come in looking like a fraud out of the gate. And then it's just the analogy I like to use is like a ladder, right? You got to climb one rung at a time. Some of us can climb those rungs a lot faster than the other ones, but you got to do one at a time. And if you miss a rung, you're going to fall back down. So make sure you have a good roadmap out. Start doing a little bit at a time. Keep going forward. And you're going to look back and in a few years, if you stay consistent and diligent with it, you can accomplish a lot in a relatively short period of time. And sometimes some people it's a little longer than others, but that's certainly what I would do. And it's a completely unfair business. You just got to get yourself on the right side of the unfairness more than the wrong side, right? Because I feel like I get wronged on a regular basis, but I have my unfair share of the right side of that more than I do the wrong side of it.
Amen to that, brothers. Listen, so if people want to get a hold of you and not call you
Yeah.
personally,
Yeah.
how do they find you, brother?
Two ways, right? So the best way to kind of learn more just about what we do is much like Corey. I co-host a podcast called the Old Capital Real Estate Investing Podcast. I co-host with a guy named Paul Peoples. So you can find you search for Old Capital either on iTunes or Stitcher or probably anywhere you hear my voice right now that Corey's on. I'm probably on that as well. So it's Old Capital, or you go to the website, which is oldcapitalpodcast.com. Or the other way, really, my company that I run is SPI Advisory. So you can simply go to our company's website, which is www.spiadvisory.com. That's SPI like spy, advisory.com. There's a contact us form. Fill that out. I'm always happy to have a 10 to 15-minute telephone call with people on a meet off a podcast if you're potentially interested in working with us and kind of learning more about what we do.
Dude, very cool, guys. Listen, hopefully everybody listening right now, what an inspirational story. We covered a lot of really good stuff, a lot of great points. Michael Becker, thank you so much for having me on, or having you on my podcast, for coming, showing up. Guys, listen, mindset is 99% of the game. It really is what can take you from, hey, I'm struggling, I want to do it really bad, to, gosh dang it, look, I'm doing it. And it is like that ladder that Michael just said. It is one step at a time. You can't skip the rungs. You've got to go and hit each step, or you're going to fall down and then you have to start from scratch again. Don't make that mistake. Be diligent in your process. If you believe it, you can achieve it. Your paradise is possible.